Good morning and welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie and today we're going to be doing a little bit of paper quilting with offcuts. So I've pulled out some papers that we can use, but you can be using any papers that are in your kind of offcut stash that we all have. And good morning Mum, and hopefully the chat will start coming through on the main screen too. So at the moment I'm looking at the little preview, so I'll say morning Deb and morning Carol. And never have that feeling that the multi-stream just isn't going to catch up. It'll get there eventually, I'm sure. There we go, that's better. So today you are going to need pattern papers, scrap card, you are going to need one round foam dot, you're going to need some stamps, and you are going to need your ScanNCut. You can also use tape as well, you don't have to, but if you want to add some tape into your quilting you can do. Yep, we have the numpties. Oh dear. Making me laugh. And Tracy, I'm getting a load of forward slashes for some reason. Or back slashes. No, which way around that is. So, without too much further ado, as you're all here, let's get on and jump on in. So you may notice we've got a bit of a different view this morning. So we had a bit of a move around last night. So if I can't find anything, that's why. So let's pick some nice papers that we can use. As that one's already out, let's go for that one. And you don't have to have whole sheets, I'm just happening to do that just because whatever's loose in my folder, so let's go for those. Now I have two colourways in the same pad, so it's not that I have two pads. Honest. Let's see what we've got in this one. So you can mix and match if you want to. And I'm going to go for this piece of red here, because that can pull out some of the reds in our poinsettia. Okay, and we can set those to one side. I'm also going to move my stamps out the way temporarily so we have lots of space to work with. So now we're going to bring in our bigger piece of scrap card. So you can see it's just one that's in my stash. I'm just going to turn it over, you don't have to, but just so it's nice and clean for me to work on. And let's start cutting some strips. So the strips don't have to be any fixed size. You can do some thick ones, some thin ones. So let's go for this end and let's do some thin ones. It's a little bit easier on this edgy trimmer to do the thin ones. Like my blade could do with a bit of a sharpen. We can sort that later. So you're not going to need oodles of each colour, so just cut a few strips. With something like this where you've got quite a large pattern, I tend to stick to using thicker strips of it so that you see more of it. And we can tidy this one up for one strip. Actually, let's go around that way, she says. Because I'm just thinking, if I go all vertical, then they're all heading in the right direction. Okay. Now with something like this one where you've got some smaller elements, then sometimes you can get away with a slightly thinner strip. finally we have our little check pattern. So with this next one, I'm going to use my pattern as a guide and try and just bring out that little central element of the pattern. Okay, so we have our 4 papers and we'll see where we go from there, because we can always come back and cut some more strips if we need to. It's going to be my trimmer temporarily out of the way. Now my card is bigger than what I need it to be, and the idea is that we're going to trim into it and actually get our machine to cut out the panel that we need. So don't look at that and think, oh, that's so daunting. Okay, so you have a couple of ways that you can work with this. You can use some double-sided adhesive sheet or tape, or you can use wet glue, and it really is going to depend on the thickness of your paper. So if you're working with something like this where it's about 160, then you're probably going to find if you use wet glue, you may find that you get a bit of crinkling going on. So in which case you would be better off using double-sided tape. If on the other hand you're using pattern card, so anything sort of above 170, then you could all easily swap to going to wet glue. So let's pull out a sheet. I'm just going to go for a full sheet of the Clarity Stamp double-sided. Come on, out you come. There we go. I'm just going to literally go and take that straight up the middle. I do have an offcut as well, so I can fill in the gaps. Just going to grab my scissors and cut into these offcuts so I can get a few extra strips. Now your adhesive doesn't have to be perfect, so if you've got a few small gaps, it's not going to matter too much. Like so, and if you wanted to, you could probably fill in that end there, but I think that's going to be more than enough for what we need. So I'm just going to trim that down first. Rid of the bits of rubbish. Morning Thea, morning Christine, morning Linda, morning Joyce. Okay, I'm going to pop that out the way. So now we want to reveal our backing. My aim is chronic today. So I'm going to go for a kind of V shape, but if you want to do something a bit more intricate, or if you just want to be really plain and just go vertically, you can do that too. Either way is fine. So I'm going to start off the edge in a similar fashion to what we did yesterday, and I'm going to take that across that way. Very roughly, I'm just going to trim that like so. Okay, and set that to one side, and let's go for this piece next. And again, just going to give that a little trim like so. Right, on this very corner we can just use a little tiny snippet of this dark green. And again, just trim that down. So we might go, okay, let's go for that thin strip for our next section. And again, we're going to give that a little trim. And we can set that to one side. Then we're going to go to our next pattern. So again, start off the edge. Now do be careful when you're trying to line this up that you do go really lightly until you're sure that it's in the right place. Okay. So now, let's see if that ribbit's going to be long enough. Not quite. So let's go for a thin red strip. And we're going to work our way up the card, just like this. And there's me saying I was going to go for a V and I've gone straight over the top. It doesn't matter. Okay. So once we get to this point, I think I'm going to swap and change. Let's go that way. Let's get a few more strips going. As I said, you can do as many or as few as you need. I'm going to go for a thicker one here. I'm going to use my pattern to line up so it's a bit more like a ribbon. And again, do the same on that side. Let's go for some more of our poinsettia paper. So again, we're going to go thicker because it's a big pattern. Let's do another thick cut there too. Now when you find that you're starting to get to the smaller pieces, you may have a little bit of difficulty. Try and use the right hand side of your guide to line up. So this edge here, I can trim that down. And I'm just going to roughly chop that off for another piece. And let's get some more red too. So while I'm doing this, you could also be using tape for some of these strips if you want to add a pop of metallic, for instance. You don't have to have a set width either for your strips. So with this done, let's carry on. And I'm going to go for some red going this way. And because I don't really want too much of that dark green touching that big area of dark green, I'm going to go to the lighter. a little bit wider, because you can still use all those little strips to kind of piece in around the corners. So let's just roughly chop those off. So all this rough chopping that we're doing, we're going to tidy up towards the end anyway. Then we're going to cut into that to create our background panel. I'm going to go more there, so let's do dark green next. I'm going to line that up and that. And let's go for another bit of a poinsettia. Now that's the same width that we used before, so let's go to our thinner one. And we'll go like so. And again, just going to give that a rough trim. So I'm quite liking that so far. Now at this point you could go back to going this way. If you wanted to be really clever, you could actually angle the ends of your paper so that you can actually go vertically across this space. But I think I'm going to go back this way just for a little bit. So let's go for it's not quite long enough for what I want. Let's go for this one. Okay. And let's go with another bit of our dark green. Yep, paper quilting, yep. And morning, Chantal. Hopefully you are all having a lovely day. We've got lovely sunshine, which is nice this time of year, unusual. It's actually brighter in here first thing than it is now. Oh, it's most weird doing the camera checks this morning. So I checked it first thing and then came back to it and it's like, oh, I need some extra light. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly trim these up so that I have some pieces for the last little bit. Like so. And like that. So now for this last little bit we can turn again. And I'm just going to go from the middle outwards, so let's put that one there. And a bit of the red. Bit of the green. This is where you can use up your little bits too. And let's go for this one here. Just going to put that in there. Okay. So again, just going to roughly cut those like so. So with all those little bits, you can decide whether you're going to do another piece or if you just want to recycle those. The idea being that you're recycling as little as possible. So let's just trim down here. So I'm hoping that you're all able to kind of go back and check up on our Facebook page after the stream. So this morning I uploaded the photo of the firework card that we did yesterday, which we took last night, so it was glowing. Over the sort of coming weeks you'll be seeing lots of different cards that will also be going up on Instagram and Facebook that might not necessarily be covered on stream. But if there's any that you would like to see being made, then do let me know and I can do a video on those. Okay, so there's our piece of card, and you could use that as your entire card background if you wanted to, and then just literally pop your design over the top. Okay. Now with your spare bits of paper, don't get rid of those just yet, because we can use those in our design. So I'm just going to pop those there. And next, let's go to our machine. So, just going to pull out my cutting mat. Ta-da! It's going to magically appear now. I'm going to line this up so that I'm going in 1 inch, so I can see the entirety of my paper. Now that's an important tip for if you're working with pattern paper and you want to be able to move your design anywhere on that pattern paper. By just bringing it in that bit, you can see edge to edge rather than having that active area cut off. So I'm just pressing this down while it's on the cutting mat, because it's doing two functions by doing that. Number one, you're making sure that that paper is sealed to that adhesive underneath, and you're also making sure that your card is stuck to your mat. Okay, let's wake up the ScanNCut, shall we? Kids, doze back off. So, let's go post cam. And hopefully, yay! Chantal, if you go to artisticsdirect.com, they can actually get delivery over to you in the States. And I believe the postage is actually subsidised to go over there. But this one that I'm using today is the, what's that? It's got a new name. It's the Duo something. And my brain's gone, no, can't remember. And it should be out either towards the end of this week or next week. So I'm going to load in my mat. And there we go. We are going to go to pattern. We're going to go to a basic shape. And let's go for a thin rectangle. I'm going to add that to my mat. Now, even though this is the wrong way round, it's the wrong size, it doesn't matter. It's just there to get to this button here, which is your background scan. And let's tell it to go. Thank you, Tracy. And thank you, Linda. Chantal, before you order, drop me a PM, as those that join in with our classes are entitled to a discount code. So let's bring down our shape. We're going to go to edit, object edit, and we're going to rotate it round. So we're going to go 90 degrees so that instead of being horizontal, it's now vertical. We can go OK, and we can go to resize. Now, if at this point you're thinking, well, I'm using an 8x8 card blank and it's giving me in millimeters, if you click on the little spanner, you can change between your two units just here. Likewise, if your scan is getting in the way of seeing where your outline is, you can also change that at this point. You don't have to do it in the main window. So I'm going to go OK. You can also use your cut area if you wish, so that you actually highlight this outside area so that you don't go outside if you want to. But to be honest, I very rarely do that unless it's something quite specific. So when we're resizing, it's going to resize from the centre outwards, so hence I've moved this into the middle, and I'm going to bring it down just slightly so that's in the middle of our card. We can then increase our height, and it's going to proportionally grow. If you want to slightly alter one or the other, then you have the ratio button, which is this one just here, and when that's active you'll see it will turn blue, and that means that you can alter your height or your width independently. But I think for now that's probably about right. I might actually bring that height down just a little because it's probably just a little bit too big. She says, thinking, actually I could go DL. Oh dear, decisions. Let's grab a card first, see what comes out. There you go, DL. So if ever you're not sure, you can actually use the measurements on your mat to quickly measure. So 210 tool, so I know I can go a little bit bigger than that. So with that now set, we're going to go OK and OK again. Now I want to add another shape, so we're going to go add, pattern, basic shape. We're going to scroll down 3 to get to our circles. Now I do wish they'd put the circle on the first screen because it's usually you're either going for a square, rectangle or circle in your basic shapes. It would have been useful if they'd done those to the first 3. So we're going to shrink those down, and we're doing this so that we have a little hole. So you don't want to go too small, but I'm going to go a little bit smaller. Yeah, let's go 9. So my foam dot that I'm going to be using is 6mm. So my hole is a little bit bigger than my foam dot, which means there's going to be a little bit of play, but you should be able to get through it and spin nice and easily. We're going to go set, and that's going to put it right up in this top corner. So let me zoom in a bit so you can see that a little bit better. So just up in this top left. Now obviously we don't want it to cut out there because that's just going to cut it out of our mat, and that would be silly. So we're going to want to move it roughly about there. We can then go to edit, multi-select, select all. So that's going to select both shapes on our map. We can go OK. We're going to go to move, which is the 4-way arrow. We're going to go to align, and we want to choose the one that is going to align it to the centre horizontally but not vertically, which is this one here. So you can see that's going to budge over slightly, so now that we know that is in the centre of our card, or in the centre of our shape that we're going to be cutting from our card, I should say. So let's go OK, OK, okay, lots of okays, till we get to our screen where we're going to say what we want to do with those lines. So when we go to select, it's going to ask us what do we want to do with it, and we're going to go to cut. Now if you see something like this where you've got your dashes, it just means you haven't put your blade in yet. So let's pop in our blade. And I'm going for the standard today just because it's got to get through the paper, the adhesive and the card. Plus we're only using basic shapes. So remember to change your settings if you need to for your blade. So I keep mine down at -9 for the standard blade and -6 for my vinyl blade. Okay. And off we go. So let's drop this down slightly. Overhead. There we go. And it's good to see a learning, Chantal. So there are literally hundreds of videos that we've now done. You can go back and catch up on. So before I remove my mat, I am going to just check that everything is cut. So even at this point, if we found that something hadn't cut properly, we can change it so that we can just cut the hole. But I think we're all right. There we go. So there's our panel. Okay. Now if you do find it snags any of the paper, usually it will just smooth back down again with a thumb press. If not, you can always ink it. The other thing I suggest doing, if you don't like the raised cut edge that you can get with your ScanNCut, if you just go round the edge with an embossing tool, usually you can find that you can actually round that off slightly. And let's just take that little bit out there. So before we go too far, we have our other piece of card. So let's pop that back on our mat. And we're going to use part of the same design again. And why isn't that charging? Okay, I'll have to see what's going on with Ian's phone in a minute. He's not happy about something. And we're going to go back to our close cam, which is connected, so I don't know why it's not charging properly. If you had put the hole near the top, you could have made a bookmark. Yep, you can do. You can do indeed. So I'm going to go, okay, don't go off to sleep. So we're going to go back. And it's important at this stage that we do go back and not reset. Now we've still got a scan underneath. If we go to settings and off for the background, that just clears it out of the way so that we're not getting confused. And Ian's phone's going to be annoying now, because for some reason it's not charging, which is very annoying. So we want to select our outer shape. So if we're going to edit, object edit, there we go, just so that you've got that outside shape, because we want to keep that circle. And we're going to delete it. Now with that little circle there, we know that we need to go bigger than that circle, so that's why we keep it there. We go to object edit, We can go to resize because it's a circle, and we can wake that up. Okay, so there's our one circle, and we'll go OK. Now at this point I'm going to do a background scan just so I can see how big my card is for the next one. Okay. So with that there, we can then move that circle down to the bottom, and we're going to add another circle. So pattern, basic shape, and we're going to go down to page 3, get the circle, and I'm going to set that as is. Why is Ian's phone not charging? There's something really not right there, because otherwise you won't get a signal. Okay, so edit, object edit, resize. Let's take that down. So I'm going to pop that into the middle of my card there. We can go OK, OK, OK. And let's just move that a little bit up there. We can move that circle across a bit that way, just so that we're using that top end. So it looks like that. Is that keep going dark on your screen too, or is it just me that keeps doing that too? It's very annoying. So we're going to go OK. And we're going to go to cut. And we can use the same blade again. No, it's all good there. Okay, it's just mine that it's a bit annoying with. Doo-doo-doo. So we now have our 2 circles. Now our bigger circle we're going to be stamping onto, and our smaller circle is going to form the back of our mechanism. So let's pop those bits there. We can unload the mat. Pop that back underneath for a moment. Tuck that away. And let's bring back in my cutting mat. Okay, so we have our card blank. We have our background. Now we're going to have our dot to go underneath and a little spinner to go on top, like so. So just before I go too far, let's just grab an embossing tool, and I'm just going to very quickly go around this edge. And it's just going to tidy it up a bit. Okay, you can also ink that if you want a bit more dimension. I think for what that's looking like on there, I'm happy with that. So let's do our stamping next. So you are going to want a stamping platform, and I'm going to go for the big one. Let's pull out my diesel sheet too. There we go. And let's pop that on there. So this is going to help hold our circle in place when we're probably not going to be able to get magnets to fit onto it. So decide which side you think is the better side and put that facing up. And I'm going to use the magnet to hold the, well, we'll use cutting mat in place. And that's why I tend to recycle my cutting mats into. They tend to go into my stamping platforms. And let's get that camera just that way a bit. There we go. Cool. So, with that in place, let's decide which stamps we're going to use. And I've pulled out, as me and Mum would say, numpties. But everybody else would say tomties. So these are Chocolate Baroque ones rather than the Paper Boutique ones because they're just a little bit bigger, so you can get a bit more detail into them. And let's go for, I'm trying to think which one's going to look good when it's spinning round. Let's go for that one. I'm going to line this up so my tomty is sitting nicely in there. If you don't get all the stamping, then that's okay. But as long as you get most of your tomty in. There we go. You're going to close up your stamp platform. Press it down to pick up your stamp. And I'm going to go to some squid ink. Up and over, give it a little press, and there we go. We've got our little tomty with his little reindeer, which is cool. So I'm just going to give my stamp a quick clean. Place that back on it just to protect your sheet. Now, if you want to colour that in with colour pencils, you can do. If you want to use markers, you can use those too. Or you can use watercolours. I think today, what shall I go for? I think I'm just going to go for a bit of pencil shading. Let's go for that one. So I'm going to go round underneath the fluffy bit, and that's just going to give it a little bit of a 3D feel. And by going softer with the colours on this section, it's going to help it kind of pop up from a really colourful background. Now with this section I'm going to go a little bit more colour. And I'm just using an ordinary HB. And a bit of shading just down there too. And we can do the same underneath the beard, so just around here. It's going to help that pop and make it look like it's kind of shading over the top of the coat. The bit underneath is on there, and a little bit down the front. Then we can do all over for the skates, and then shade on top. So it doesn't take very long when you just do monochromatic shading like this, but it does just make those little details just pop a little more. So it's going to go around this side like so, underneath here, just to push that leg into the background, and same here. Around the back here. A little bit under the jaw. And just around the front there too. Now if you want to do the little hoof, there you go. And there you go. So that's just a quick bit of shading. So now you need to take that off. And I'm just going to use my metal spatula just because I don't want to damage the edges. We can close that up. So now we have our DL card, our pattern piece. So first of all, I'm going to get my round dot and stick that to my little circle, and you want to try and get this as central as possible. Okay, so if I hold that a bit closer, there you go. So you've got little circle, little dot. We're then going to put our background paper over the top, peel off the adhesive off your dot. Now the next bit can be a bit of a challenge because you want to try and get this in the middle, but if you don't get it spot on, don't worry too much. It just means that when you spin it round, it's going to go a bit wobbly. So I'm going to go back there. Give it a spin. So then you can go whee. Simple things. So what I might do with that one actually is just do a little bit of pop of colour with the red after that. Okay, I'm happy with that so far. So just some double-sided tape around here. You want to make sure that you don't get any adhesive around this section so that it's still got plenty of room to move. Let's go for some double-sided tape. So yeah, it's a really fun way of using up your scraps so that we're not wasting so much. If you want to use a brad in place of the foam dot, you can do that too. I just generally find that the foam dot moves a little better. Another suggestion is if you have some contrasting card that goes with your background, you can actually create a scalloped edge to go underneath, and that scalloped edge will make it a little bit easier for you to spin it. But that's not bad timing, is it, for our hour today? So I'm just going to peel those backing papers off. One last one. And I'll pop that And if you want to do any edging, you can also do that. So I do have some masking tape there that I was considering doing as a lip border, but I think for today, just because of time, I might do that off stream so that you can see the finished card later on. So I hope you've enjoyed that. As I said, do keep an eye on the Facebook page and on Instagram, because there's going to be lots of different designs going up on there because of doing DT stuff for this week. And if there's anything that you would like me to show on stream, don't be afraid to ask. Thank you, Delcy. Hi, Louise. You're welcome, Tracy. And I hope you've really enjoyed that. So tomorrow we have a Pretty Gets Gritty stream, which will be mixed media. But I haven't quite decided yet what it's going to be mixed media. It's probably going to have some kind of Christmas theme, just because. And also I will try and use the Fiverr Friday deal as well. So have fun. Any questions, ask on the group, or you can message me. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.